Hi, my name is Caitlin. I'm going to be giving a brief presentation about Britney Spears today. Just kind of taking a look at her and her life and applying some of the theories that we learned in class to her life. This is for our Psych 453 class, and I do apologize, I don't have a projector. I tried as hard as I could, but I couldn't get a hold of one. So my presentation will be separate from my PowerPoint today. If you want, you can click through my PowerPoint. It is attached to my discussion board so that way you can follow along with what I'm saying. I will let you know when the appropriate times to change the slides will be as I go. So if you want to just flip that open, I will jump straight in and give you a quick summary about Britney and her life and everything she's been through and all the different theories that I thought might apply to her. So the first slide, a short biography, if you want to flip to that one, I'll start with it. Britney began her career in acting in 1993 with the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. She was about 11 years old at this time, and she stayed with the show until 94 whenever it got canceled. After this, she stayed with Disney for a little while, acted on a few of their different TV shows until she moved on to pop music in the 2000s. This was what really started her career and got her in the spotlight, was her pop career. She was a very controversial subject at the time. She was very sexual for her age. She continued to sing, but she also made some bad decisions regarding drugs, alcohol, and during this time she got married and had 2 boys. She continued to make bad decisions with her parenting and also with her marriage as well. These bad decisions continued until about 2009. As we all know, Britney kind of had a little psychological break there for a while where she shaved her head and went berserk. She ended up locking herself in her house with her 2 children to protect them from her ex-husband, stuff like that. And this lasted, like I said, until 2009. In 2009, she kind of got back on her feet after a few rehab stunts and came out with a new album and a new tour to get herself back on track. Today, she continues to sing, and she also hosts in a few different television shows if you've seen her on there. She's not as large as she used to be when she was younger, but she is getting back on the right track with all of that good stuff again. So the first theory that I decided to kind of talk about Britney with was a Freudian look at her. She, as we all know, was very sexual for her time, and I thought Freud would be a very good starting point to discuss her and her psychological break. So because she was such a sexual image, I thought Freud would have a heyday viewing her and viewing everything about her. I thought that if he were to go ahead and do an analysis of her, he would determine that she leads her life with her libido. She, as we all know, that's your sexual tendencies, as you will find in Personality by Berger. She was one of the top sex symbols during the 2000s. If you want to switch to the first Freudian slide, it's called A Freudian Look at Spears. It's the next one after the biography of her. She was one of the top sex symbols for the 2000s. Everybody kind of questioned everything that she was deciding to do. She was something of a modern-day Miley Cyrus back then. And she repeatedly brought herself into the spotlight with very sexual acts, such as kissing Madonna on stage, doing a pretty much naked performance with a snake wrapped around her, and then creating a few different types of songs with some kind of questionable titles. Most of her public appearances were definitely kind of created to over-sexualize herself and let everybody know how sexy she really was. So this is kind of why I made the determination that Freud would determine that she leads her life with her libido. On top of leading her life with her libido, if you want to switch to the next Freudian slide, it's A Freudian Look at Spears, but it's the second one. On top of leading her life with her libido, I think that Freud would also determine that she was kind of lacking in ego and superego. I determined this because during her psychological break, she acted very childish. She did what she wanted without questioning her consequences or anything like that. She acted very erratically. She began to break under pressure. I think she led with her ID, which your ID is when you kind of do what you want and don't really question what's going to happen with it. Your ego blocks your ID, and then your super ego blocks your ego and your ID. So I think that she was lacking in her ego and super ego and kind of just living her life by what her ID wanted. As I stated, she barricaded herself in her house with her children as kind of an example, and she also just, spur of the moment, shaved her head, even though everybody absolutely adored Britney's hair. She kind of just did what she wanted. The next slide is the second theory that I thought might apply to Britney. It's titled Neo-Freudian Aspect. So I kind of did Freud, and then I kind of did the opposite of Freud. Or I guess you could say kind of built on Freud, but in a different way. So I thought that Neo-Freudian psychologists, if they observed Britney, they would state that she has an abundance of neurotic anxiety. As you'll see in Berger, neurotic anxiety is explained as happening when the ID impulses that are not acceptable are too close to coming into the consciousness. With Freud, I talked about how her ID was constantly taking over, kind of, and letting her just do whatever she wanted to. So I thought neurotic anxiety kind of built on the ID aspect of what Britney was doing. I would say that a neo-Freudian psychologist would probably determine that these unacceptable thoughts kind of came through Britney's consciousness and broke through with her actions, causing her to act in the different ways that she was acting. The second page, you'll see the picture of Britney with her head shaved. That's the next slide. Is also titled Neo-Freudian Aspects. I thought in addition to having neurotic anxiety, Britney also had some questionable attachment styles. You can see this with her different relationships that she had during her famousness, kind of. She had a few different relationships that she was in. She was also married once, and all of them kind of just went down the drain very, very quickly. She struggled with every single one of them, and I believe that a neo-Freudian psychologist would kind of determine that she either has an avoidant attachment style or an anxious ambivalent attachment style. It's kind of impossible to determine which one of these she does have unless you're interviewing her, kind of observing her firsthand. But from reading what we see in the media and stuff like that, it is possible to say that she most likely has one of these two different attachment styles. I believe that a neo-Freudian psychologist would also determine that her failing attachment styles kind of added on to her neurotic anxiety, which eventually led to her psychological break in the public eye, kind of. So the next slide, if you want to switch to it, is the third theory. It is a humanistic approach. The humanistic approach, as you'll see in our book as well, believes that people are striving to always become fully functioning individuals. It is clear that Britney at one point was a fully functioning individual. She had a really great family. She had a very comfortable career. She was making lots of money. She had stability, security, and the respect of the public. So kind of breaking down the humanistic idea of fully functioning individual, she could be defined as a fully functioning individual. That is until she had her psychological break in 2009. Her fully functioning individual mentality kind of shattered around her as she kind of lost it a little bit. She completed her divorce, and this is essentially what caused her spiral down into her psychological break. If you want to switch to the next humanistic approach, that's where I'm at right now. If Carl Rogers were to observe Britney and her psychological break, I believe that he would definitely determine that she had an anxiety attack. He believed that individuals kind of experienced anxiety when they faced information that was inconsistent with their views of themselves. So she viewed herself as a successful, loving individual, and when she got divorced, she faced a lot of different things that kind of didn't add up to how she viewed herself. I think that Rogers would make the assumption that she learned new facts about herself during this divorce, just like a lot of people do, and they were inconsistent with how she viewed herself. And this also obviously led to the break. Everything at once probably led to it, but this was another little factor into it. So out of all of these theories, I kind of came to the determination of which one I liked the most and which one I liked the least. You'll find this on the analysis slide, which is my fourth to last one. So you'll see on here that I kind of just determined that I personally believe the neo-Freudian theory would probably describe Britney's life and also her psychological break during her most famous time. I believe that the definitions of neurotic anxiety and her poor attachment styles really kind of hit the nail on the head whenever it came to describing Britney. I think that they definitely described her psychological break the most out of all three. And that was kind of the focus of when I was reading about everything. I was kind of focusing on Britney Spears' psychological break. The one that I thought that I didn't really like as much to apply to Britney's different issues that she was having was the Freudian theory. While she had a lot of sexual tendencies, it's very obvious to see that she had sexual tendencies. I do not believe that that is what really caused everything that happened. I don't believe that Britney led everything that she did with her sexual urges and things such as that. Freud believed that everything that we did had some kind of sexual tendency behind it, and I do not believe that everything that Britney did had that behind it. So in the end, I decided that Neo-Freudian seemed a little bit more applicable and the Freudian theory seemed a little bit less applicable, but both are definitely still applicable. If you want to switch to the next slide, it's my just quick summary, just a quick little brief conclusion about Britney. She obviously faced a lot of difficulties in her life, but I did want to give her props for pulling herself up on her feet and getting herself back out there. She's raising her sons now. She got over her psychological break, and she is a successful woman again, living the life that she wants to. I believe that she's a fully functioning individual again. So yeah, that's my quick summary if you want to give it a quick read through. And then the next two slides, you'll just see my citations and then my photo citations for the few photos that you saw in my presentation. And that is it. I look forward to hearing your questions, and I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, my PowerPoint's attached if you want to flip through it again a few more times. And then, yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon.